Hi everyone, it's Jen from Mind's Eye, and we're going to go ahead and do part 3 of Madame LaLaurie and Marie Laveau. And what we're going to do is this deep dive look in. It really is harsh. It's really rare that we've been doing a 3-part series on it, but there's something connected on the current day events that's happening that really is showing through, and it has shown through a little bit that I can see on that connecting as a psychic when we go about it, that you can't even see it coming. So when I actually see it coming, I do a through. I do a through. You can't even understand what a do a through is. So we were looking at stem value, and stem value was like a puppet. And a puppet is like a doll, like a hoodoo voodoo. But I saw oak wood, and oak wood was like a stick figure, and they would really stick it to you, like slap their hands, and they would be rigid like a wall, and they would be able to manipulate you to the highest degree of none. So when you actually look at it to the highest degree of none, you actually would say spell it, but you would say no do, no do, no kudu, could be you, tutu. So let's look at the Akashic Tarot and see what else we can draw out, and what the afterlife wants us to know. It doesn't even want us to say the S word or medium or anything like that. It's highly controlling, highly controlling. Let's see. We couldn't even do. Holy cow. So let's sit down there. And it really is like this nasty, rancid smelling. And it's really not good for New Orleans. It's very sour. It's very bitters. I'm seeing like tasting bitters, which is a type of leaf, a type of root when they burn it. And I feel like they're trying to do like a bash or a banish away. But it's really more of like a stick to it. So when I see the two worlds, there really is an opposite of two worlds. When you have this afterlife, when you actually have it through, and you actually go through it hard enough, you can't even see it coming whatsoever. Now, when I look at this and I actually see the Archangel Raphael in reverse, it was a type of takeaway of a ball to the court. They're alluding a lot down in mediumship to spirits and in the afterlife. It had to do with court. It had to do with show. It had to show your skirt. You had to show everything. It's showing like the anatomy and physiology of the soul. It had something to do with that. And it came in like a strike, like a forceful lightning strike, like a storm. And then all of a sudden you didn't know what you were doing. You did not know what you were doing. You couldn't even go to the doctor. You couldn't even go to the doctor. This was a harsh, like reality down there. So when I actually see spring and autumn, and I look at this whole picture, it really is a path unknown, and it's very quiet. It's quite serene down in New Orleans. And then all of a sudden it was a kick up of a tick up, and there was a war right in front of them. And it really had to do with our agriculture in the Civil War in the 1800s, that whole era, that those two women would actually encounter each other. They lived in the same timeline, in the time frame, everything to it. And there was something about setting their course. I feel it's like a type of protect, a type of recruitment, like we were talking about. And then when you actually look at their like atonement, we need atonement. You really can't cut out anything to do atonement, I hear, but you got to solidify. And when you actually solidify, it's actually done wrong, a WRON, and then you have to get raw iron, and then you have to get rust, and then you have to get a metal, and then you can't even do cast iron because it's the wrong type of like burn barrel. Like they knew exactly how to do it, but when they cast out their magic and their energy, all they had to do is like that. And that's how strong they were. They were like retained their energy so hard, it was more than power. So how can energy be more than power? It had to do with something about messages, about afterlife. It was a different like ting-a-ring-a-ling. So when I see on track, and I'm seeing the railroad tracks, and I'm going right through, I can't even believe the King of Keys comes in reverse and says you can't do anything. You literally can't do anything. So breaking a commitment, absolutely, because they kept showing the paper in the last video. Was it truly a slave? Was it truly an indentured servant? Was it truly a tariff? Was it anything of that? So let's actually look at the tarot cards, because when I see this and we were seeing Abraham Lincoln, he was caught by a tree. A tree. We don't know if it's TRITRE or a TREE, because when you see this and I'm looking at Abraham Lincoln, I was like, yeah, I would be really scared of the tree. I would be scared of the tree. Alrighty. Animal Spirit Oracle. It went right to something different. That's how strong the afterlife is. Here we go. Frog. When I see frog and I see Civil War and I see that, I really say go get the buckets in the barrel and check the horses. When I see this and I see the butterfly, it really was messages down the line and through the barrel, down to the barrel. When I see scorpion, you are going to go a little sour and rancid. Because when I see the beaver, it actually is the type of like, they're like deterring already, like trough, but really it is like they're showing me a trellis and they're showing me a trough. They're showing me where they actually would lead to the horses and keep them there when they go into the tavern or somewhere else. But basically, when you see this too, when you look at it, you can't even see the hyena or the zebra. It was almost like they parked wrong. They did not park their horse right. Isn't that like awful way to say it? When I see stingray, look at the way that chakras are in that card, right down the middle, down the line. So when you actually don't, put your horse the way it's supposed to in the 1800s at the current point, and then you actually are dinged and you're talking about chakras, I bet you money they were like dinged in the head. Dinged. When you see this, you see the phoenix, it actually was like ashes rising. I can see the pipes. I can see that they were smoking. They would snuff people out. When you see oyster, it really meant club. Club. All right. Wild Unknown Tarot. Now, when I see this and I see that, and I do an about face, I can't do a don or a gone, but I can get a bay, and I can get a bay and a lay, but it's spelled ABE, and it's absolutely, you can definitely get a bay, but you can't like run. There was something about a hold back of a run. So when I look at it and I see the Two of Pentacles in reverse, it has to do with monetary measure. When you see the Father of Swords, it's everything about logic. So they're showing me again what like products, what were they looking out of agriculture down the railroad in the Civil War that was a block. We were saying it had to do with myrrh. It looked like coal. It looks like myrrh. It is brown. It's not dragon's blood's resin incense, but it acted like coal. It's odd. It's odd. And it would smoke out, for lack of a better, a rare end to make a train go. Like it reacted so odd with physics and chemistry that just a pinch would make a go. So when I see this in the current date and time, something like that, it would be dragon's blood resin incense. It would be frankincense. It would be a lot of things. But when you see the Seven of Cups in reverse, it's like grandiose thoughts. Like, how did it go away with just like a few things? It really has to do with property. And property, and when you look at like scientifically, it has to do with like clarity of judgments. It's odd, but really it's something about partnerships and how they do. It really is. They're showing me it had to do with stem value, the start of the Civil War. Then it went to agriculture, and then it went to a duck, duck, goose, and then a bee at bay. Daughter of Pentacles. There were offers on the table, and it is young, and it was good. Like it was almost all of a sudden they would go and have something, like we said in another video. What do you need us to know for part 3? No skilled work. Sharp endings. Not foreseen. 3 of Cups in reverse, where you can't even believe it. So hard. You couldn't even do it. There's like no getting together. All of a sudden, they couldn't even gather or have anything in a courtyard or anything like that. You couldn't work together. There was no learning. So here are these shops like hoodoo, voodoo, any type of practices. They could not take on students because they had no materials to learn. Not even paper. Highly dictative. Highly dictative. So when you see it and you go, nuh-uh. When you see the 6 of Wands, you have to say there was something of that barrel that was a bun. A bun. I keep hearing the song Hot Cross Buns. It's highly derogatory down there. Highly derogatory. Many earthbound spirits, not by choice to be gone, but be a beg, a watch over. So like I had said in the part 2, it really is a big deal if, seeing it as a psychic medium, that statues would fall. That meant a portion of that roar of how it was built in the Civil War is actually collapsing. So what does that mean in the current date and time? That literally means on how our infrastructure is going to fall because of the energy of that incident. 8 of Pentacles means that you can't even go about it in a way unknown. All of a sudden you have lack of communication. So as I see, the incidents with the inmates running down in New Orleans, and what was happening was you had lack of communications at airport. I would actually look at racketeering like horse. I would do basketball. I would do baseball. I would look at everything that they can do a line drive on a cast out. Let's see here. Now, growing up along military and law enforcement, I can't even get the word out. That's how you know. That's how you know. The 10 of Swords means there's like no finality. There's no finality, but there is alleviation. And then when you look at it, there's balance. And then you see the 7 of Wands. It really is no getting about it, but you can't even do. You've got to work your magic, everything about it. So when I actually see this upkick of an uptick, and they're showing me the cobblestone stones, we're seeing Salem witch trials the way they are, on how they were doing toad with stone in the pot. And stone was a highly derogatory thing that they showed, and as through study, it was so disgusting and graphic. It's talking about anything about bodily fluids made into a ball, and you had to put it in a stone. That's why you can see how fast it was on how it would hang. You can confirm. But basically, when I hear as a psychic, you can confirm. What am I confirming? I see the Son of Cups in reverse. What is going on? What is going on? That's what I hear. There's a type of chaos that actually comes in, and I'm seeing the senses. I'm seeing that they did find that instance of stone down. They're showing me Crocodile, Alabama to alligator to the eyes, like the way the eyes that the crocodile is. And then when I actually see the way that the snout comes, there's no teeth, but there is teeth. All of a sudden you blink and it's there and it's not. It's an illusion, delusion. So when I see this and I see Son of Cups in reverse to the star, it really is this like pull back of like first feelings, and it's wishful. And when you see the Mother of Wands and you go, holy cow, they don't sit well. The way that the women and the men would sit was shown on how it would be. To the Eight of Swords in reverse, it was highly deceitful at times. Like we talked with Betsy Ross and Clara Barton in Psychic Mediumship, they literally had to carry something, and it would be a knife right on their leg underneath their skirt to balance them. So when that happens, as myself as a magician, if I have to have something on me to balance me, that means weighted lyre, Lire, was used in the area, and you have that hard time grounding like you're a space cadet. You actually need something on you. When I look at this and I go, the Ten of Cups, there's like happiness, contentment, good family roots. Let's look at the runes. Peach Moonstone. I see this all of a sudden. I went, holy cow. Like, I did not want that. I did not want that at all. Nadis, it really was like a cutout, like a sword, when they would gather together, Hera harvest. It's like a time of gifting. Like, they couldn't even gift out things like any, like they would inherit and gift out. Really, really strong. They're showing me in April to November of 1829. They can't even gift anything. Not even your own family members of like something that you gifted. When you see it, when you see Fehu, it means like when you would gift something of yourself because your family or friends, and it's like all of a sudden it doesn't sit well with you, and you have like acid reflux, ulcers, GI symptoms, or anything like that, you couldn't believe it. It's so old, this type of gifting, that they really don't do it anymore. And this is where we talk about heritage in the state, Othala. It really has to do with that, with wealth for them, high wealth, having gifts of oneself. It was, they're showing me trellis with this. Trellis in Alabama would be a type of trolling that was like silver lining. Hidden games that they would like try to find where this gift was. This Tewa warrior, like hidden warrior. When you see Laveau, you can't even believe how hard it was. Like how even the ability to like work with water or anything like that, that was a lot. So when they couldn't do anything, that was war for them. Living, something about living. It's living, it's paper, but no can do. It meant three things. So when you see this and you see Hebo, gift, it was a gift. When you see Hagal and you go through it, you can't even do. When I look at this havoc, and we hear Rido, when they actually would travel apart, I could actually see them being upset when we talked about in a couple videos how Abraham Lincoln was able to be heard in multiple states just by sitting in Washington, D.C., but nobody else could be heard. And then they looked at the cattle. He had to say, this was disgusting. I can see why slavery and other things were the main topic. Wunho, joy. So let's see where this energy is actually leading through. They don't want to talk about the house with Madame LaLaurie right now. Fire, hidden, blood. I see and I feel blood magic. I see inconsistent, be at bay while you eat something while you eat. It would be like you choke and you do a do. So basically, when you call it like commanding out forward means a foremost bay would actually rise up. Like the ability to like rise up water was hard, but you can only do it at certain times of the day. How could you actually rise water? Is that why we're watching the waters? We have to put that out there. Are we watching the waters? Are they rising because of how they cast out what they need done? Let's look at the literary witch's oracle. What do we need to say? I see bird of a feather. Feather was actually like the worst omen that you could ever have at that moment. Rebellion, identity, mastery, and strength. Like, take note when you see this wing. Noose, not literal. Vision, trickery, transformation, and milk. I see them walking about, and all of a sudden they do a double take. They see the person that they know normally, and they have the masking effect that we've talked about, especially when it comes to occulty and the occult, to imposter syndrome, that you can't even believe how hard it is to actually like have creative wit, fun to grotesque humor. I could see aggravated assault really bad as a form of justice. How would inducing aggravated assault be a form of justice? Humanity, basically, they're just running on dry instinct. It happens at night. And it was like funny. It was a joke. When you see the pond, you can't even do it hard enough. Can't even do it hard enough. When you see white dress and pond to wildflowers, I feel it was like a young offering, and all of a sudden they're there. I'm not seeing anything like we saw in the Salem witch trials where the kids were in the woods playing, and then the sheriff, the constable would have to go in and they'd have to recount and recant and like recollect everything. When you see the rabbit to the knife to the bees, like this was like heard it, hearing, to cutting itself, to bees, to working together, quiet place of growth. That would be normal. That would be normal for teenagers. What did the teenagers discover? because now they're showing me the ushering in of the Rosetta Stone. Now the Rosetta Stone is an enigma because it literally is a living stone. So when you look at something like Outlander and Claire touches the stone, transference, she's able to put herself back into a time and space where you can't even present forward. You can't even do it hard enough whatsoever. Where people laugh. Yeah. When you touch that stone, which you're not even supposed to, people would actually go haywire because of the energy it emits. So it keeps wanting like tarot, oracle. Let's do obsidian stone. What else do we need to know about this? Wealth. I feel like it's securement. They showed me securement, Rosetta Stone, havoc, fate. I would say they were tinkering somewhere like anything else, and they saw it practicing their gifts. What do we need to know more about Madame LaLaurie and Marie Laveau as it pertains to New Orleans? Beaded treasury, one most tray. I would say that is a birthplace of where a gang or a mob or anything of that, because the energy is so hard, you can't even do it hard enough. The energy makes sense. It has clarity when they actually do it. For those who are earthbound spirits, it has to do with communication, all forms of communication, even speaking low into intuitive hearing, where you become discontented, too solitary, too solid, too isolated, to becoming no logic, and it propels forward. And lastly, almost to a locking it down like you saw in the 90s, to lock it down. You'll understand if you grew up around the Crips and the Bloods. But basically, when you see this, it's so quick and young of that emotion of its water cup energy. It's going to be literally nasty, 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 nasty. Here we go. Why would there be a game? It was treasure. It was Duan. It was Trey. It was Lua and Post. It basically had to do with like groupings of cursive specs into whole thing of like it made me draw forward. It would be curses, spells, and hexes in one word. It was heinous what they did down there. What would make them at odds end? Where Marie Laveau and Madame LaLaurie, were they ever on the same page? Multifaceted, unique, let yourself be seen. I feel like they practice same. Seeing potential, bringing unconsciousness light. Hidden secrets, lost wisdom, look a little deeper. One had to stand out. intuition, turn your gaze within. Power places, trust where you're led. There were places that they were supposed to go. One could go and one could not. Codependency, boundaries. I'm seeing around them, not of them. Soul plan, fated life, destiny life. It was written, a WRIT, which means it was already set in stone. And it wasn't in a stone. It was like already a judicial ruling from another lifetime that they wrote it. They solidified whatever instance that they were a part of in another life. It continued out. So when I say this, it goes, say yes to change. That was like this whole energy still down there. Now, before it comes to that, and it looks like slander and defamation, and it looks like anything of that courtship, let's look at the poker cards. What can you see? Two of clubs, they came in twos. 4 was no. 9 was like best cattle. 4 of clubs, tavern. 5 of diamonds, 2 of diamonds. This is odd. 4 of diamonds. 7, 11, no can do. When they actually counted, and they counted in and counted out all forms, and 11 would be like a sheriff or a constable showing, or community watch, who was going to come and knock on that door. You would have to have an odd or an even number. Queen of diamonds with the Jack of hearts, it would end in law enforcement, a type of law enforcement. Common law was not counted in. It had to be constitutional law and rights. That's where it landed. So when I see the Ace of Hearts, I actually see how hard it was to actually like have togetherness, like one love. Jack of diamonds. King of hearts, it's already backing away. King of diamonds, Jack of spades, it really will be like a cut out and do a delay and be like a no to a go. And when that would happen at night on a go out during New Orleans, as they're showing me, that you can't even go alone, that you actually have to check their shoes on where they've been. That will complete everything out. When you see the 10 of diamonds and cartomancy, it means like it's a go to go. And that's all you need to know. So with that being said, any questions or concerns, leave a like, a comment, a share, an email is greatly appreciated, and we'll talk to you soon.